What you see behind me is the brand new BMW 5 Series Touring. And today we're going to take a closer look at it and see what the new generation is bringing to the customers. The thing is, this is and has been a trademark model for BMW over here in Europe. It has been a crowd favorite for years because it used to be the go-to family car for successful people, successful middle-class people. And a lot of Europeans fit that description perfectly. But today, everybody seems to be buying SUVs in all shapes and sizes. So where does that leave the BMW 5 Series? And considering all the eco-friendly push we've been seeing lately, what kind of engines do you still get on the used to be popular wagon from BMW? Well, that's all we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about how this car drives and the specification it has and the engine under the hood. And I'm going to keep that a secret until we get behind the wheel, because as you can see, there's no badge on this car to give it away. So let's talk about what changed, what's new, and let's talk about how this car feels. As you probably already noticed, we're going to start off things in a different way than usual. We're going to start with the rear end because we've already talked about the 5 Series over here on my channel when I tested the BMW i5. That was, of course, a sedan in electric shape. Today, we're taking a closer look at the touring version, the estate, if you will, depending on the market you're in. And we're going to take a closer look at what's different on it. Since we've already seen the front end of the 5 Series and so on, the cars are identical up to the B-pillar, but from the B-pillar back, some things are starting to change. For example, the roofline on the Touring is a lot taller towards the back in order to accommodate more luggage in the back and to give this car this traditional, estate shape, this traditional wagon shape, whatever you want to call it. There's a number of ways of describing this body style. So as you can probably already tell, we have a difference from the B-pillar towards the back. We also have a longer chrome strip around the windows. That's of course due to the shape of this car. And at the back we have a more practical boot. Now, what I find rather interesting is that I think for the first time in my book at the least, the Touring is right now a better looking car than the sedan. Don't judge me, I'm from Eastern Europe, and around here we prefer our cars to be sedans for some reason. And we think they are prettier than their wagon or estate counterparts, so please don't judge. Now, whereas the sedan does have a rather weird shape towards the back because it has been stretched upwards in order to make the car taller and accommodate the battery pack in the floor for the electric versions, on this car I think the tallness of the whole thing of the greenhouse does work in its favor, and I really like this angle over here. It's rather round and I like the shape of the Touring. Yes, I actually enjoy the way it looks from the B-pillar back. If we're talking about the front end, well, I'm still not a huge fan of how this car turned out. I still think that the hood is way too high towards the windshield, and I still think that it could have looked better. What's interesting is that this car doesn't really have the M package on it. It doesn't have the M Sport Pro package on it. So this is basically like a random normal 5 Series. And we still get this active grille up front. These flaps open and close depending on the cooling needs of the internal combustion engine under the hood. And we still have the iconic glow package on this car, which basically lights up the surrounds of the grille at night. Unfortunately, BMW dropped the laser headlamps on its most recent offerings. I don't know exactly why. According to them, they say that the new LED matrix technology they have is just as good and not as complicated or expensive to manufacture, so they decided to drop the laser headlamps altogether. which is kind of sad. This is something that made BMW cars unique in the automotive space, in my book. I actually like the wheels on this car, 20-inch wheels. They look absolutely great and they are aerodynamically optimized. In terms of size, this is a 5.06 meter long car, so the new 5 Series did grow a lot in size. We have a wheelbase of almost 3 meters, 2,995 millimeters, and it's quite a big car overall. It barely fits in a traditional parking spot over here in little old Europe. Now, on the back, as I already said, I actually like the way it looks, but there is a huge miss out for BMW on the new 5 Series. Now, most of you, I mean, probably 90% of you out there already know that one of the key features that set the BMW 5 Series apart from its main rivals was the fact that you could open the glass part of the tailgate separately from the rest of it. That's no longer available. So you had a button over here which allowed you to open this glass bed to, I don't know, sit and to access whatever is in your trunk. Well, no longer. That's no longer an offer, and I really can't understand why BMW decided to go this way. If you open the tailgate, you get access to all of this space. How much is it? Well, it's 570 liters. Let's close this up to show you a trick I learned. So it's 570 liters. That's roughly 10 liters more than the old G31 5 Series. So not a huge improvement. Most of you won't even notice it. And if you do this, the car has 2 stopping points. So as you can see, it's stopped over here in the middle. There's a little item over here that blocks the retractment of the cover all the way back. Now, if you fold the rear seats, and that can be done using this lever over here and this lever over here, you get access to 1700 liters of space. Let's fold the left side. So it's not exactly completely flat once you fold the rear seats, but I guess you can use the space rather nicely. Anyway, you have a hook, an anchor over here, the button for the tow hook, and the 12-volt socket, as well as some extra storage space over here and some under the floor, where you'll find a blocker for this area over here, so that you can make sure that whatever you store in the back won't run into the rear passengers. So that's about it in the back. As for the interior, I've already shown you everything you need to know. Let's take a look at this one as well. Let's raise the seats back. So this is the leather combination for the 5 Series Touring, but you can get a choice of materials in this car, including animal-free choices. This is plastic, and it's a rather soft to the touch material. It doesn't really feel all that premium, to be honest, but it's okay overall. The plastic used over here definitely doesn't feel premium, as well as this plastic over here. I like the Bowers & Wilkins speaker cover, but this is no longer metal. This is plastic. Okay, so this is the new shape of the door levers, and there's some storage space in the door card, but not a lot. And this bicolor interior does look nice. I like this design over here on the seat back and on the seat. It does look nice. Let's check out the space you get. So this is the driver's seat adjusted in my comfortable driving position. I'm 6 feet tall, 250 pounds, and I can fit in the back rather easily. And there's plenty of room. I actually like this. This is a mounting system for screens and all sorts of accessories. This is a charging port using a USB-C plug. And in case you didn't believe me, yes, I do have some headroom. This car does have the panoramic roof, but I'm guessing normal non-panoramic roof cars will also have plenty of space for people my size. If you're taller, well, I guess you're out of luck. I like the fact that BMW has moved on to completely replaced Type A cables in these cars. So we have Type C charging ports over here. This is a screen. Whenever we turn the car on, it shows the temperature for the rear occupants, because this car has 4-zone climate controls. And of course, this is the new dashboard for the new 5 Series. We've seen it on a number of cars. The first time it was introduced on the 7 Series, and then every single car afterwards adopted this design. We have a huge curved screen over here that's basically composed of 2 different smaller screens with the new infotainment system, but I'm going to explain everything once we get in the front. First of all, though, let's talk about the build quality for the front door cards. Well, they seem really nice, similar to what you find in the back. I have the same complaints over here about the plastic used in this area, but other than that, yeah, it's well done. I like the Bowers & Wilkins tweeter covers. As I said, these are touch sensitive buttons over here, and this is part of the lighting system. This is a textured wood trim, and these are the front seats in the same color and material combo as in the back. So let's talk about this infotainment system. As you can tell, it already has a remote software upgrade prompt over here, which means this car can receive over-the-air upgrades. I'm not going to activate it now because I need to film it, but I can tell you from previous experience, it works flawlessly. Let's start the car up. And in order to do that, we have to take a look at this island over here. We have crystal buttons. They come in the shape of a package known as Crafted Clarity. It's only about 600 euros, and I think it's worth it because it completely transforms this area over here. This is a start-stop button. I just started the car, and this is the rotary iDrive controller, which actually feels great to the touch. This is the gear shift lever, and this is the volume knob. We do have two additional USB-C ports over here, and 2 cup holders, as well as 2 wireless charging pads. Actually, I think it's only one. Yes, only this one will charge your phone, this one will not, and this is the car key. Looks okay, but the material could have been better. And I know I'm nitpicking, but we are talking about a rather expensive car over here. So the same textured wood can be found over here. Touch sensitive buttons all around, and this is the infotainment system. As I was saying, this is the 8.5 iDrive version, not the most recent 9 version, because the 9 version also has subscription apps included. But I'm not going to complain about the fact that I don't have to pay a subscription for certain elements inside the car to be activated. And this is the instrument cluster. You probably already know it, the buttons for various lighting functions, and of course the craze that took over the industry these days, a selfie camera, which is absolutely useless in my book. Why wouldn't I use my phone to take a selfie if I wanted to? That said, let's drive this car. Let's hop on the road, let's drive it, and let's see what we find out about its characteristics and how it behaves. Now let's talk about what's under the hood. I didn't say a word about it because this car had no badges on it. So basically, apart from the grille up front, which basically tells you that this is an ICE model, you could mistake this for an i5, but it's not an electric model. This is one of the very few engine choices you get on offer right now, and one of the very few that was on offer from the get-go. This is the BMW 520d xDrive Touring, the pick of the mill, if you will, of a lot of people, because this car was and still is incredibly popular in Western Europe, and that was back in the day because of a number of interesting attributes it had. For example, it was incredibly frugal, very spacious, and it had enough power for most people and their needs. Is that still true today? Well, first of all, the thing is, if you don't want to get the 520d on the touring version, your choices are quite limited right now. You do have on the petrol side of things a couple of plug-in hybrids, but there's no pure ICE version available on petrol right now. You also get a number of electric choices, and we're going to have the i5 Touring available for a couple of test drives as well. But on petrol power alone, choices are quite limited for now. I'm guessing we will get a number of them, but for now you only have diesels and plug-in hybrids at your disposal. As a matter of fact, no matter which one you get, you have a certain amount of electric power infused into the drivetrain anyhow, because all BMW 5 Series models are at least mild hybrids. So if we're excluding the plug-in hybrid versions, even this car is a hybrid to some extent. How did BMW manage that? It's quite simple and a brilliant idea. Actually, they changed the gearbox. No, it's still the ZF gearbox that we have all grown to love over the years, a quite reliable and very comfortable gearbox that's very eager to respond to your every input. But what they did, they talked with ZF and they asked them to include an electric motor in it. And this way they hybridized the entire range. Depending on the one you get, you have a bigger or a smaller electric motor included in the gearbox. On mild hybrid models, you have a smaller one with 11 horsepower, 25 Newton meters of torque. That's only available as an auxiliary. For example, the car can coast. Whenever you're slowing down, it will turn off the internal combustion engine and so on in order to save some fuel. You also get a 48-volt battery in the boot in this case that stores all the recuperated energy from that electric motor and then feeds it back to it whenever it needs some power, and also it feeds that energy back into the system for various auxiliary items, for example for the AC and so on. It does give you a certain boost as well, but since we are talking about a 2-liter diesel under the hood of this car, don't expect it to be incredibly fast. As a matter of fact, this car actually feels kind of sluggish, even though it's not. So overall, the total power output of this car is 197 horsepower and 400 Newton meters of torque. Since we're talking about the next drive model, that power goes to all four corners of the car through the 8-speed gearbox, as I already mentioned. But this car grew in weight quite a lot compared to the outgoing model, and it will only do 100 kilometers an hour in 7.5 seconds. Now, that's not terribly slow, but it's not that fast either, considering what kind of cars we have on sale today. Now, I know most people looking to buy a 520D Touring won't be looking to break any land speed records, but what they will be looking for is a low fuel consumption on their very, very long trips, because you're only going to buy a diesel if you're going to do a lot of miles. So what kind of numbers did I get? Well, I was kind of disappointed by the figures I got, and I have a hunch they are bigger than the ones I got on the previous generation model, even though this is a mild hybrid setup. I think something's wrong with this car, or something's not right, because around town I saw an average fuel consumption of almost 10 liters per 100 kilometers covered, 9.7 to be more precise, but you can round that up to 10 liters. On the highway, I saw a 6.7 liter per 100 kilometers cover average, and that was at 130 kilometers an hour as usual, which I know it's not a lot per se, considering the size of this car, its weight and so on. But I think other cars in this segment are a lot more frugal. Now, recently, even though I didn't film it for my English channel, recently I had my hands on a Mercedes-Benz E-Class, an E20D 4MATIC. And even though that was a sedan, not a T model, it was a lot more efficient. For example, on the highway, that car got an average fuel consumption of 4.6 liters per 100 kilometers covered. The weight is roughly the same, almost 2 tons, both cars. And I'm guessing This one is less aerodynamic, but still that's an almost 50% difference. So my guess is, I think something's wrong with this car. I don't know. Maybe I need more time with it to figure out whether what I got is just a fluke in the system, or maybe that's just what the car will, the car's consumption looks like on the long run. What I can tell you is that this car has a total mileage of 2,100 kilometers, and the average fuel consumption over these 2,100 kilometers is 8.4 liters. I don't really know how it was driven. I'm guessing it was abused for most of this period, because this is a press car and press cars are getting abused quite a lot. But 8.4 seems a bit on the higher side of things. As a reference, the E220 I told you about earlier had an average over 7,000 kilometers of just 6.7. So pros and cons. So as I said, this is quite a heavy car with 197 horsepower. It doesn't feel that lively off the line. That's not its main purpose though. If you want a fast 5 Series Touring, you can get a 540D or maybe an i5 with M60 with 600 horsepower. You have plenty of other choices. People looking to buy this car are looking for comfort, low fuel consumption, and refinement. And I have to say, on 2 of those items this car delivers. It's incredibly comfortable on longer trips. We do have the adaptive suspension on this car, so it's not on the standard dampers, but these do feel very comfortable in comfort mode. And when you switch on to sport mode, the car does stiffen up quite a lot. We also have the all-wheel drive steering on this car, which makes it feel a lot lighter around a corner than you would expect it to, considering how big and heavy it is. So all of that does work in its favor, and this still drives like a BMW. The only thing you have to be aware of is the fact that it is a 2-liter diesel BMW, so it's not a racer, it's not an M car. You have to adjust your expectations to the size and shape of this car. But overall, I think it still delivers a lot of the characteristics people have been wishing for from a touring model. It has plenty of space inside, plenty of space in the boot. It's comfortable, it's quiet, it's refined. I actually like the fact that right now the internal combustion engine is probably just zooming along. Let's turn to sport mode to have a rev counter. So we're doing 70 kilometers an hour right now, and the rev counter shows just 1600 RPM, so it's very relaxed right now. And you barely feel the engine running. The same goes for when you're driving around town. It's very quiet. The start and stop system doesn't shake you too much, but then again, this is a new car, so I'm guessing all this refinement might be affected later down the line. I don't know. We're gonna have to wait and see how this car shapes up in terms of reliability, but overall it's a very refined, relaxed car with a lot of driving assistance. By the way, I really enjoy all this technology BMW has, keeping you in lane at a safe distance from the car in front and so on. You do get a new driving assistant that allows you to change lanes without actually having any steering input. So all you have to do is activate the turn signal, look at the left or the right mirror. The car has a couple of cameras over here. It knows what you're doing and it will change lane automatically for you. All you have to do is keep your hands in contact with the steering wheel. I don't find this particular feature all that useful, to be honest. I prefer to do all the overtaking myself, but I think it's a great way of showcasing what the technology has in store for us, and the fact that BMW is actually working on self-driving technology for the future. Whether that's coming or not is a whole different discussion. I'm not going to get into it. Overall though, I enjoyed this car. I would have preferred a more powerful engine, but then again, this is just what's available right now, and the engines available in your country might depend on where you live, because there's a weird split in between markets right now. For example, over here in Romania, in Eastern Europe, you can only get a 2-liter diesel if you want a ICE under the hood. Otherwise, you have electric choices, and that's it. Plug-in hybrids using petrol engines will be coming later down the line, and also purely ICE models as well. As for the pricing, it starts at roughly 62,000 euros, depending on the market. This car has a starting price of 62,000 and some change, but with all the additional extras on it, and there are a lot, from the panoramic sunroof to the driving assistance to the Bowers & Wilkins sound system, the integral steering, all-wheel drive, and so on and so forth. This car has a price tag of 95,000 euros, but I'm pretty sure not a lot of people will spec a 520D so high later down the line. So I'm rather curious to hear about your opinions and whether you would buy this car or one of its rivals. And since we're talking about rivals, well, be not actually forgotten by Audi. I'm hearing that we're gonna get a fully electric model pretty soon, but I don't know when. So basically, the only rival this car has right now is the Mercedes-Benz E-Class T model. I didn't get to test the T model. I tested the sedan twice, and it is quite an impressive car. In my book, I think that's a better car than this one. I know some of you won't agree, and I'm curious as to why, and I'm really looking forward to seeing your reasons in the comment section below and seeing which one you would get. Until next time, don't forget to feed your passions. Don't forget to hit that like button, to share, to subscribe to this channel to keep it alive. And yeah, I'll see you next time.